Namaste, good morning, Sat Sri Akal, and so many other ways of greeting everyone to another episode of Dekho Apna Desh. Today, we are bringing live to you the 81st episode of the Dekho Apna Desh webinar series. We are excited. Our 1 year birthday is round the corner. 14th April is when we started our journey of Dekho Apna Desh, and it's going so beautifully, incredibly strong. And incredibly strong because of all of you who've supported us in watching it, and for all the presenters who are coming from all over the country and giving such amazing presentations that we just don't want to give this up. So keep supporting us so that we can keep bringing to you our incredible India. This week, as you all know, we have been supporting an event in the northeast part of our country. The solo cycling of 1,000 kilometers in 10 days of cycling is being done by a solo cyclist. What was exciting for us about that event was that it allowed us an opportunity to bring to all of you the beautiful, magnificent northeastern part of our country. And just like for the rest of the country, so for the northeast, we cannot just club it all together because each state, each part of those states also have something so unique about them, whether we talk about the history of those places, the culture, the people, the food, the clothes, the dance forms, and so much more. So today we are going to bring to you food from Assam and bringing us the stories of the culinary trails and also the potential of what all can you possibly eat when you are on your travels to Assam, and telling you so much else about the food from Assam are three beautiful, incredible women from Assam. And the first presenter today is Madhusmita. Madhusmita is a partner at the Avani Travel Services. It's an inbound travel company which is based in Assam. She's also an alumni of the IITTM at Gwalior. And so she's going to tell you a lot about the trails that you can take when you travel to our beautiful Northeast. And Sanjukta Datta, Sanjukta is a junior ambassador from the Northeast for India Food Tourism Organization. She's a food writer, blogger, and a foodie also, from whatever I could make out. She has participated in the World Heritage Cuisine Summit in 2018, held in Amritsar, being invited by the IFCA. She represented her state Assam and demonstrated her ethnic cuisine along with chefs from over 40 countries. Young Indians like you make us so very proud, Madhusmita, Sanjukta. And joining you is another third young, incredible woman of India, Chef Megha. And viewers, I must say to all of you that it is always a pleasure to host anyone, but just that little extra pleasure when you're hosting women. In March, 8th March is also the International Women's Day. We've just celebrated it. And it's not just to say that we empower women. Women are very powerful, women are very strong, but I think it's also an opportunity to showcase all the work that women are doing. So Chef Megha is going to demonstrate foods from Assam. She's going to cook, I think, some chicken, but she's going to be using the much known, the fiery, fearsome bhut jalakia. So we look forward to a lot of food and a talk about food from Assam. So thank you, viewers, once again for joining in and supporting Dekho Apna Desh. I leave it to Madhusmita to start the proceedings for the day now.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for the lovely words and the opportunity that is given to us today for promoting the food of Assam. And let me share the screen. Yeah. So, welcome everyone to today's webinar on Assamese cuisine. Assam, as we all know, lies in the northeastern part of India, which is a fascinating land of colorful culture and traditions. And today we are going to talk about one of the most integral part of human life, that is food. And joining me, my second panelist for today's webinar is Chef Megha Agarwal, as ma'am has already introduced. She is currently the corporate chef of Summer House Cafe and Oro Kitchen and Bar in New Delhi, and she is going to cook a very favorite dish of Assam today. She'll be showing how to cook, and the recipe will also be available for everyone. And the next panelist for today is Sanjukta. Sanjukta is a junior ambassador of India Food Tourism Organization, and she has been documenting the recipes of Assam, and she has been relentlessly working on the food of Assam for the last 10 years. And this is myself, and my company my company Avani specializes in organizing experiential tours in Northeastern India. And a little bit about Assam. Assam, due to its location, that is sharing the boundary with China, Myanmar, Bangladesh, Bhutan, and Nepal, so it has resulted in many waves of migration in the past. And due to it, there is a very diverse ethnic population in Assam and equally diverse and interesting food habits. And we are going to talk in detail about it in the course of this webinar. But first, let us have a look at the recipe that is being cooked by Megha today. That is smoked chicken with bamboo shoot and the fiery bhut jolokia. So over to you, Megha, a little bit about the recipe.
Hello. Hello, everyone. So today I'm going to be cooking one of our favorite, much loved recipe. It uses a lot of traditional ingredients. I'll show you some. So if you look here, this is our sawtooth coriander that we have. We're going to use this in our recipe. And then these are the much famed bhut jolokia that we have. And in addition, we have this, it's called lai hak. I think it's a family from the mustard leaf. And we have some fresh and just to show you some fresh and some fermented bamboo shoot, fresh bamboo. This is fermented, this one is fresh. And we're going to cook that all with some smoked chicken. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Megha. We'll come back to you as you start doing the recipe. Okay, so now moving ahead. So now the next topic we are going to cover is food and festivals of Assam. So the most popular festival of Assam is Bihu, and we have 3 types of Bihu, but here we are highlighting just 2, that is Magh Bihu and Rongali Bihu, related with a lot of festivities. Magh Bihu is the harvest festival that is celebrated in during mid-January, usually between 13th to 16th of January. And it is the time when the harvest has been done, the granaries are full, and the people are in a mood of celebration. The whole communities, they come together and they do a lot of feasting. The women prepare a lot of traditional food, that is pithas and jolpan. And I request Sanjukta to speak a little bit about the pithas and jolpan, the traditional food.
Thank you so much, Madhushmita. And the whole setup looks amazing, Megha. So she's already started her cooking. And let me talk about Magh Bihu a little bit, that already Madhushmita has mentioned very beautifully. So this is a harvest festival, which is equivalent to Sankranti. And here we are in a mood of festivity because we have done a lot of hard work since it's an agrarian society. So there's a lot of agricultural work happening, which means people are physically doing a lot of work in the fields. So after the harvest, wherein we get a good harvest, our granaries are filled with these grains, and we are totally in a mood to celebrate. We want to eat. Winter just sets in. So technically our diet is at the at an optimum. We want to eat more, we want to cook more, we want to feast more, and we want to feed more. So comes Magh Bihu, and rightly mentioned, it's a festival of eating, communities coming together, celebrating with a lot of festivities and fervor. Everyone is in a right mood to just keep celebrating. So it's like any other festivals of India. Here we see that the community eating is the highlight. Villages come together probably in an open space, and we do a community kitchen. We cook our the best. You see, since harvest season is done, we have homemade jaggeries. We have our own cattle at home, so there is a lot of dairy products, and that all combines together to form the essence of Assamese cuisine. So the pictures depict, we have a lot of pithas being made from the the rice grains that we have, the coconut, the jaggery that Mother Nature has gifted us already. So everything comes together, and we prepare our delicacies, and there is a lot of harmony and music and dance and and happiness happening. At the same time, we see that, when it comes to the urban side of Assam, we have completely penetrated into urbanization. Our kitchens have become modern. We have very limited sources of, getting all these things come together, and we prepare our own delicacies. Now we see that, there are ready-made pithas and jolpans readily available in the urban markets. You can take a stroll in the market, and you pick your favorite pithas, and you feast at home. So this is the two different pictures of Assam: the urban Assam, which now readily buys these pitha panas that are available in the market, which are definitely packed and hygienically packed, marketed by
But it's
these
good
village
from the
folks.
from the point of view of a traveler, because they can easily get it during, if they come
Absolutely,
during this
Madhusmita,
time.
absolutely. And this is available, like, throughout the year. It is no longer restricted only to the festive months. So, if travelers come in at a point in time when there are no festivities happening, yet they can taste these delicacies because they are so readily available in the market.
So moving ahead, there are many other festivals also we celebrate in Assam. Like Durga Puja is also a very popular festival. It is another time of feasting in October, and jalebi stalls are there all over, and it's like one of the most popular food at that time. And again, there are some ethnic festivals celebrated by the different ethnic communities throughout the year. So Aliyah Ligang is celebrated by the Mission community, and it is during the start of the harvest season, before going to the field sowing. So they do some worship so that they have a good harvest. And then there is Medam Mefi, celebrated by the Ahom community. It's like praying for to the ancestors, and there is a lot of food involved in this festival as well. So anyone visiting during that time, they can just go where the celebration is happening, and they can try the local ethnic food of prepared by the community. Then next we are going to talk about itinerary, a common itinerary that can be done when people are visiting Assam. So first we are going to cover Guwahati, then Kaziranga, then Jorhat, Majuli, Sibsagar, and ending in Dibrugarh. There are many other places in Assam, but this is a very common itinerary covering some of the most visited places. And Assam can be visited all around the year. The best time to visit for food lovers is during the Magh Bihu, as we've already talked about. Then during Rongali Bihu, which is upcoming in mid-April, which is mostly about dancing and in welcoming the spring season. And for the tea enthusiasts, it's the season starts from March to November, when they can visit the tea gardens and see the process of tea making, and also during Durga Puja in October. The first destination in this itinerary is Guwahati. Guwahati, which is the biggest city and gateway to Northeast India, and people can find food from almost all over Northeast in this city. And there is some places which are very common, like everyone likes to visit the Ma Kamakhya Devi temple in Guwahati. It's a must visit. And also there is another spot that is the there was a typo. It is the Ujan Bajar fish market, which is like one of the biggest fish markets on the banks of river Brahmaputra. So people can see the different varieties of freshwater fish that is available in Assam. Also, there are many restaurants in Guwahati which are offering Assamese thali. So I request Sanjukta to talk a bit about the Assamese thali, what the traveler can expect.
Right. So we have in front of us is a typical average Assamese thali here. And I would like to go in order, which is anti-clockwise. That's how we consume our food. And we're so proud of the fact that, Assamese thali is one such thali which actually amalgamates the entire umami flavor. So you will get from astringent bitter to sour to pepper, that is heat, and it's a balanced meal in its own sense. So we start from khar. Khar is our alkaline. We burn our a particular banana peel and sun dry it, and then burn it and collect the ash, and from that we make this alkaline. And we put this alkaline in our various vegetables, meat, fish. And this actually prepares a palate. It's a palate cleanser. It prepares a palate for the rest of the flavors that will come across in the thali in front of us. We see that, you know, Assamese food is incomplete without a green chili, because we that's how we spice up our food. Generally, as Assamese food do not really use a lot of spices. Our spices being very fresh ginger, garlic, and some turmeric. So to heat it up, we have our chili, we have karoli panitenga, which are our fermented mustard paste. Then we have a little bit of bamboo shoot pickle, which enhances the flavor of the rice that we are consuming. We have fish tenga, which is an important and probably most famous. It has actually managed to penetrate into the rest of the world cuisine. So we have our fish tenga. It's a sour-based gravy, and we prepare our Brahmaputra fish, which is a fresh catch, and we prepare it mostly consumed in the afternoon. That's how it goes, sour, not in the dinner time. Then we have a duck curry, or a piece of protein, could be any kind of poultry. So my favorite being a duck, and I'm sure a lot of Assamese people who are watching us would completely agree to that. We wait for our winters for duck to come in. We can consume it with a full happiness and glory. Then we have a seasonal vegetable, which is always a prominent feature in Assamese thali. Seasonal vegetables can range from herbs and, you know, the vegetables that is there in the market, which the season offers us. We are pitika eaters. We mash everything up. So this is probably one very favorite and common condiment in our food, which is aloo pitika. We smoke tomatoes and we put it in our pitika, and that's how we consume it. We also have dal, we have lentils. These are very prominent ingredient and a condiment in the thali. And then we have our own rice. We're going to talk about rice and the varieties of rice at a later part, but this is the fragrant johar rice, which enhances, and combining it, you have the wholesome, very wholesome, umami flavored Assamese thali in front of you.
Thank you, Sanjukta. So let's have a look at how far Megha is. With the yes, Megha.
Yes. So what we've done here is we've actually used some of the smoked chicken and cooked it with some ginger, fresh ginger and fresh garlic in some mustard oil with some salt, some haldi, and this is actually crushed bhut jolokia. I'll show you some that I have here as well. So what I've done is I've just taken a mortar pestle and pounded that and added it to my curry. And these were the fresh bamboo shoots that I put here. You'll be able to see them here. So now all that's left is just adding some, which I was actually waiting for this, is we take some of the greens. As Sanjukta mentioned, we always have some sort of greens in our cuisine. So I've just torn in some mustard leaf. And maybe I'll add a little bit more bhut jolokia because I like it spicy. So here, just about like half of it, you know, and you just stir it and let it just cook in its own juices, and then we're done. It's as simple as that. We don't have any, the bhunoing process. We don't use any dhania powder, jeera powder, garam masala, none of that, because the bamboo shoot has its own umami flavor. There's a little bitterness from the greens. The smokiness of the chicken has to come through. And generally, we don't use any of that. And we'll also serve it with some sticky rice. So this sticky rice, if you can see closely, so this was harvested in January, this time during Bihu. And this is the Johar rice that Sanjukta was talking about. This is the one that we harvested again in January. I have a lot of it here. And I think Sanjukta also mentioned something about the tengas that we eat. So this is called thekera tenga, kuzi thekera in Assamese. It's very similar to the kokum that we get in the south. And I think I've already showed this to you, but this is what we'll use, the mang dhania, the sawtooth coriander. I think they use it a lot in Thailand as well. So we'll be using this as a garnish on top of our gravy. I'll just show you once again what it looks like now.
It looks yummy.
Well, because we use a lot of color, and there's a lot of green, so Assamese food actually looks quite colorful and quite.
I wish I could go there and share it.
It smells very good. I think it's the lie. But we'll also, I'll tell you what we'll serve it with when the time is right. But over to you now.
Okay, thank you, Megha. So going back to our presentation, the next destination in the itinerary is Kaziranga. It is the most visited place in Northeast India. Kaziranga is a UNESCO World Heritage Site and the biggest habitat for one-horned rhino. And the park is open from October to mid-May, depending on the rains. And people can do jeep safari and elephant safari in Kaziranga. And just before here we are highlighting one place near Kaziranga, which is a must visit for people who want to try ethnic food. It is a Karbi tribe community initiative called as Choran Ahem. And here it's a very nice village setup where the ladies wearing traditional attires, they cook their traditional food. So I request Sanjukta to talk a little bit about Karbi food.
Thank you so much, Madhushmita. This particular tribe, Karbi, are also known as the Mikir tribes, and they are a very integral and major ethnic community of Assam. So when we come to talk about Assam, we are an amalgamation of 18 major tribes and innumerable subtribes. And Karbi or the Mikirs are one of the most major and integral part of the community. Now, when we go and see the traditional and unique methods of cooking, their traditional methods are very unique, and it's a must see because of their uniqueness, the richness and the robustness that they have in terms of cooking, and also in terms of the flavors that they produce after the cooking. Now, their major cooking happens in 4 different categories. Now that's kemung. Now when we say kemung, it is the art of cooking meat, fish in bamboo hollows. So it's basically cook that happens inside bamboo hollows. So kemung is one important feature of Karbi cuisine. Then we see that they do is something called the kepi. Now kepi is fire roasting. So they cook traditionally the meat and the fish, roasting it on fire. So that again gives a very unique flavor and a distinct texture to the food they're presenting to us. Then we have keop. Now keop is a method in which they boil vegetables and grains, and this is again very brilliantly done. Then the last prominent feature technique that they use in cooking is the kehu, which is steaming. Now they steam various ingredients, be it the vegetables, be it the fish, be it the meat, and these are the prominent features of Karbi cuisine. Now, apart from that, they use a dry fish powder in their food, which is popularly known as hukloti. And there's again another way of consuming dry fish, which is the okrang, and that is completely dried fish that they catch from the river, and then they dry it and use it throughout the year. So it's a method of preserving food and as well consuming this preserved food when as in required.
Sorry. Thank you, Sanjukta. The next destination in the itinerary is Jorhat. Jorhat in Middle Assam is a tea destination in Assam, having a great tea history. There are almost 135 tea gardens in Jorhat, and it's just 1.5 hours drive from Kaziranga. So anyone who's visiting Kaziranga can easily go to Jorhat, can just extend a day, and they can have this great tea experience in Jorhat. So there are many heritage tea bungalows in Jorhat where people can stay and relive the colonial experience of the tea planters. And they can also do tea tasting in the gardens. They can see how the tea leaves are plucked and manufactured in the tea factories. Moving ahead is the next destination is Majuli. Majuli is one of the biggest inhabited river islands in the world, and it is the seat of Assamese Vaishnavite culture, which was propagated by Srimanta Shankardev. But another reason for which one must visit Majuli is to see the missing tribal culture. Majuli is accessible from Jorhat by a boat ride, which takes about 2 hours. And people can take a day trip, or they can also stay over. Some decent accommodations are available in Majuli. So today we are going to highlight the missing tribal food that is available in Majuli. You can see on the left hand side a typical missing tribal house. The Missings, they are also known as the river people because they stay near the river and their houses are built on stilts so as to protect them from the annual floods. So Sanjukta will talk a little bit about missing cuisine.
Thank you so much, Madhushmita. Now, Missings are, or the Miris, are another very important and integral part of the tribal community, which builds the entire bigger identity, which is Assamese as a whole. So they are a very prominent they are a component when it comes to Assamese community as a whole. Now, rightly mentioned by Madhushmita, they are the inhabitants. They are known as river people because they generally dwell or inhabited around the places where there is a river. So now the river is there, so that means it makes them a fish eating community, number one. So there's a lot of consumption of fish happening. There's a lot of preserving of fish happening. So there is dry fish in the food. And apart from that, if you see, they're inhabiting in the districts of Dhemaji, Lakhimpur, Jorhat, Sibsagar, Dibrugarh, and so on. Now, just like the other tribes of Assam, they are also a pork-eating community. So pork are predominant and cooked in various different ways. I mean, a traditionally cooked pork by a Missing tribe and a traditionally cooked pork by a Karbi tribe would be starkly different. And that is where the beauty lies, we just districts apart, yet the cuisine varies. And this is the beauty in the diversity that we have and that we are trying to project at the moment. Smoking is one of the techniques that they use because they're again into preserving, because they live in a lot of hardships, be it winters or harsh winters or the harshest of floods that affects them. So we preserve a lot of food. They're forest people. They consume a lot of forest foraging. They do foraging, and then whatever is available by whatever is gifted to them by Mother Nature is what they collect, and the entire combination forms the Missing cuisine. They also have a very unique alcoholic beverage called the ash wine that I should speak a little bit about. It definitely is one of my favorite alcoholic beverage, that it's go-to beverage. So it's Saimod, which literally translates to ash wine. So the ash of the paddy that is cultivated, they just burn it down, the ash they collect it and they distill it using some different forages, and these are unique forages that are available in the wild, which they know it, they handpick it, and they make a fine solid paste out of it, and then distill the whole ash, and it forms a wine, which is Saimon. And this is the most significant part of the Missing cuisine. So that is all about Missing from my side.
So the must have is the rice beer. I think when one travels to Majuli, so one must definitely try the rice beer here.
I think Madhushmita, you do a lot of you do have sources wherein you take in travelers and make them understand the winemaking process along with just making them taste the wine.
If that is because they don't make the wine all the time, there are specific times when they make it. So if it falls during that time, then we definitely show them how it is being made in the villages, in everyone's home, and they also get to taste it.
Brilliant.
So moving ahead, the next destination in the itinerary is Sibsagar. So Sibsagar was the capital of the Ahom kingdom for the major part of the 600 years that they ruled over this region. And this place has some of the amazing architecture of the Ahom period. There is Ronghor on the left side, which you can see is one of the biggest amphitheaters available in Asia. And on the right hand side, there is Karenghor, which was the palace. And there are also many other temples and buildings of that period. So one who is traveling through that must make this a compulsory stop. And the last destination, last point in the itinerary is Dibrugarh. So Dibrugarh is known as the tea town of Assam. It is situated on the banks of the river Brahmaputra and is surrounded by tea gardens. And it has a very interesting history, and it is being credited as being the place having the first commercial tea plantation in India. Here also many heritage tea bungalows are there where people can come and stay and have the tea experience. And there are also many communities and tribes residing in and around Dibrugarh, where people can go and visit. There is the Thai community, which had migrated a long time back from Thailand. They have some villages here in Upper Assam, so people can visit. There is another very unique culture. But today we are focusing the Singpho tribe. The Singpho tribe in Margherita. Margherita is about 2 hours drive from Dibrugarh. And why we are focusing it? Because the Singphos, they are credited with introducing tea growing naturally in the region to the British in India. The British, as we know, they were trying to grow tea in India for a long time. They had got saplings from China, but that had failed. So when they met the Singphos, and the Singphos, they introduced them with the tea plant and they did the cultivation with that, ultimately they were successful. So this place has a lot of significance, and here the Singphos, they make tea in their very own traditional methods. On the right hand side, which you can see on the bamboo, where so they put tea in the bamboo and it can be preserved like this for many years, and the flavor just gets better with each passing year. They also have a very interesting food culture, which Sanjukta will be talking about.
Thank you, Madhushmita. Yes, indeed, they have a very, very unique and rich traditional cuisine that needs to be explored, that needs to be highlighted. Number one, because it is very simple, it's characterized by its simplicity, and that is the beauty of Singpho cuisine. They're so robust, and the simple flavors are very elegant in its own ways. The flavors in the meat and the fish are mostly tapped by these two aromatic herbs called the mezenga and the machan leaves, which are grown in any Singpho household. So these two leaves actually bring in the flavor, enhances and elevates the flavor of the fish, meat, or whatever they are cooking. Now they are traditionally known to be consuming a very super glutinous rice, which is called the maitong rice that is seen in the pictures correctly. So these are, they have many methods in cooking the maitong rice, and the most popular being, wrapped in leaves and steaming it. So this is how the entire, cuisine picturizes itself when it comes to us savoring Singpho food. Now, they give you a wholesome and a rustic experience. Number one. Number two, it also gives us a very nice understanding that they have been probably the first tea drinkers. Of course, the Singpho tea or the Falab tea is widely popular. The tea that they harvest, they put it in their bamboo hollows and then are smoked traditionally, and smoked for a definite period of time before they put it in water, and then it goes into your cup, which is so smoky and very aromatic in its own way. So probably they're the first tea consuming people long before actually Britishers have thought of cultivating tea in Assam, more so in India. So yes, that makes them very unique, and experiencing Singpho cuisine itself is a cultural exchange.
Thank you, Sanjukta. Let's go back to Megha and see how our recipe is doing. Megha?
Hello. We're almost done here. You can you see clearly? Should I bring it closer?
Yeah, it's visible.
Yes. Yeah. So we're almost done with our smoked chicken and bamboo shoot curry. What we've added right at the end, needed to add some sawtooth coriander. So we don't even chop it. We just crush it. We just tear it and put it in it. And I think about 2 more minutes and this should be done.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I wish we could,
Delicious. Just go there,
I wish we had some Sai mod.
I totally agree.
Yes.
I would completely break the screen to be in there.
It is unbelievable. If you even look at how Sai mod is made, they actually they make a funnel out of a banana leaf and then they distill it through there. and in a missing kitchen, you'll see how this chicken also, I'll show you the chicken that I have smoked, but this is what they do. So with their regular cooking, when they do it on the chulha, they have a little bamboo basket where they keep all their extra meat, whatever they cut in the daytime and they eat fresh, all the leftovers, they keep it there, the fish, the pork, the chicken, and they just smoke it. It's actually the greatest way of preservation also for them.
Absolutely. And traditionally in Assam, we call it the dhuasang. That
Yes.
is where we smoke our vegetables and our meat all together, basically
Yes.
preparing ourselves for winters when ingredients are not available very easily.
I
And,
think we have some pictures we can show viewers later.
yes, please.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's show them some more pictures. Okay, so just moving. Yeah, this is the sang, right?
Yes, absolutely. This is how it happens. So this is a suspension that they create in just above the chulha, the soka, and the smoke that goes out after every day's cooking is tabbed in these suspensions where we preserve our meat, our vegetables for our future use. And this traditional method of preserving food is smoking. It's called smoking here in Assam. And this is how we smoke our food. So it ranges from fish, meat, and vegetables in many communities. So beautiful, Chef Megha. I think that's coming out so beautiful.
So let's see what are the activities that people can do in Assam food for food related. People can go to the villages. Visits can be arranged, and they can savor the rice beer made by the ladies in the villages, and they can also see how it is made. They can take part in the tea gardens. They can see how tea leaves, the two leaves and the bud is being plucked, and they can also take part in it. They can do tea tasting, and people can take part in like Assamese cooking classes. They can see the demonstrations, how food is being made in the villages, and they can also take part in a cooking class. And the traditional dances, all the ethnic communities have their own traditional dances, and it's very much possible to see these dances and also learn how it is being done and take part in it. And moving ahead, let's talk about some very unique and producers of Assam. Not all are unique, but very, very nice producers of Assam. Sanjukta.
Yes. So this slide really makes me happy. These are our, our own dear ingredients that defines Assam in a lot bigger and a grander way. Rice, yes, we are so proud of our rice. We are rice eating people, and this is a staple. And we're so proud to present that we have over 200 plus varieties of rice. So imagine the amount of rice consumption we do, mostly because we are agrarian society. Once again, our breakfast generally is rice, and rice eating is ingrained in our system. Rice are of different qualities, and having said that, we have 4 different types of rice based on the season. I mean, there's a winter harvest, there's a summer harvest, there's a very interesting, which is deep water rice also, which is cultivated in floodplains. So that is again a very unique, which gives a red color texture to the rice. There's a nice red tint to it. Then we also are proud cultivators of the very famous the black rice. We do have a huge area where we cultivate this black rice as well. Now, rice ranges from being aromatic to non-aromatic, and variety from winter variety to summer variety. So give us rice, and we are so proud of our rice. Yes, then we see our chilies. We cannot not talk about our chilies. Chilies have given us recognition worldwide, so we definitely need to speak about our chilies, which are famous, and the most important being the Bhut Jolokia. Of course, that gave us an identity, though we missed on the GI tag, but I think it gave us a good identity. And I'm so sorry, Miss Sun is here.
the different roles that a woman has to take up. So,
I completely agree, and this is so embarrassing. I'm so sorry, but then yes, coming back to chilies.
Not at all, not at all.
Happy Women's Day.
Madhusmita, yes, that tells us all the hats that women wear. So absolutely
Absolutely
brilliant,
true.
I think.
So we see a very nice red fiery picture right next in front of us, and I can just go on talking about these chilies. We have micro chilies here. We have our own different varieties of bird's eye. We're so proud of the fact that we come with different varieties of bird's eye. The cherry shaped chilies that you see are a Sikkim delight. They are called the Dale chilies, and they also come in different varieties. These are fiery. Please do not ignore them. They can give a Bhut Jolokia run for its money. So yes, we have our chilies and we have our rice, and we're so proud of it that we are probably the biggest producers of the varieties of chilies that Assam can give to the rest of the world.
yes, there are many other, yeah.
Yes, let's talk about our pepper. Again, pepper is one of the most significant component when it comes to Assamese cooking. Pepper is definitely why a lot of Europeans explored the rest of the world. So this is definitely a very expensive spice. And, you know, our region has everything that supports cultivation of pepper. Assam pepper is different in its texture and flavor. And when it comes to the chemical composition, which helps healing respiratory ailments. So pepper is a medicine. Pepper is one of our most significant spice, and you know, it is beneficial. It has been mentioned in Ayurveda, the benefits of pepper, and we have it right here in Assam. It can be explored, it can be exploited as much as it can be, because Mother Nature has bestowed that blessing for us. We have our turmeric. Again, let's not talk about the other varieties of expensive turmeric that Northeast has given to the rest of the world, but let's be very specific and talk about Assamese turmeric. Again, it's a very significant spice. We consume it fresh, we consume it, we apply it, we use it. Our you know, Bihu bath is not complete without applying turmeric on our skin. So it has a lot of significance. It gives Assamese its identity. It is again hugely cultivated in Karbi Anglong, Golaghat, Lakhimpur, Nagaon, up to Sonitpur. And this is a very powerful health. It has powerful health benefits. It probably has potential cure to prevent heart diseases, Alzheimer, and cancer as well. India contributes 75% of turmeric production in the entire world, and Assam alone has accounted to almost 2 billion rupees in the fiscal year of 2018. So we are huge producers of turmeric, and we're super proud of this produce.
And in the villages, when you go to the villages, you can actually see these being cultivated in almost every home. In the backyard, they have a turmeric plant, they have a ginger plant, and these are like harvested every, once a year. They harvest it and they consume it themselves.
Absolutely, absolutely. Talking about our, now coming to our bamboo. Bamboo again is so significant produce. It is a major, it gives us our identity. So you go to any part of rural Assam or semi-urban setup of Assam, there would be a separate patch for growing bamboos. Bamboos grow naturally in abundance in Assam, entire stretch of Assam. We see that we are probably the only state which grows about 38 different plus varieties of naturally growing bamboo. Again, we use bamboo for many reasons. Starts from cooking to consumption to construction. The most popular being the ultimate raw material for paper making. But it has been instilled, and it's an inbuilt requirement for Assamese people right from the moment we wake up. We cook in it, bamboo. We consume our bamboo shoots, which again has so much of health benefits. The different vitamins that are there, which is again required for which are rich in dietary fiber. Again, we have protein in it, vitamins in it. There's amino acid in it. So the requirement, it has so much to offer us. So it definitely makes a very unique produce of Assam, and we are super proud of it again. Yes, then we have our own saring ingredients. There's a picture of elephant apple. There's a picture of our own lime and lemons that this region has. We are known for our citric fruit again, because it's told there's a popular saying that Assamese people lack in vitamin C, and so Mother Nature has gifted us citrus fruit so that we balance this deficiency, and we are we're good to go. We don't need any other medication because everything is right there. In the answer is with the Mother Nature.
So here we can see, we've already seen this slide, but there are some pictures of how a village life in Assam is, like a typical village house. And we have almost come to the end of today's webinar. So if anyone has any questions, I don't know how much time we have left, but if anyone has any questions, they can put it in the chat box.
And I think we can go to Chef Megha once and see what she's doing. She's
yeah. Let's go.
I think I was going to say that let's.
Yes, Megha.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, Chef, we can hear you.
All right. So we're almost, we are done with our
So we're
cooking.
coming along.
Yeah. So I will just turn it around and I'll show you. So this is our chicken, which is done. Okay, and we're serving it like this, if you can see. So there is our sticky rice that I showed you before, that we've spoken about, and the pitika. This is a classic aloo pitika. We have a fried component in our plate, which is a classic bengena bhaja, eggplant with turmeric and salt, fried in mustard oil. This is one of our classic chutneys. It's called a dali bota, which is just yellow lentils that have been soaked and ground in a mortar pestle with some garlic and some green chilies. This is a simple salad that we make with onions, tomatoes, again, a drop of mustard oil, and then we just mush it up and just release all the juices. And this is what the dish that we just cooked, the bamboo shoot with the chicken. So I think this meal would classify as I think this meal would classify as a regular lunch or a dinner in somebody's home, right?
Delish. It looks amazing.
I wish I could just go through the
also
screen and be able to.
The recipe.
The recipe,
So
yeah.
Also the recipe will be given to everybody at the end of this.
Yeah.
I think you all can, I think there'll also be substitutes. You don't have to use a smoked chicken. You can, if you want to try it at home, you can cook it with regular chicken. If you have the local chicken, it's even better. Otherwise, you can use the broiler chicken. And yeah, and if you don't find fermented bamboo, you can always find fresh. If you still don't find that, you can try with the canned one, but I wouldn't recommend. Otherwise, you come to Assam and you taste it and you go for it. So we're done. I think I've shown you everything that there is. And if there are any questions, you can definitely ask us in the chat section below. I think there are 2 questions.
Yes, I think yes.
Some of the questions, thanks.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm traveling, and that's why the connectivity is a little wonky. But also to mention to everyone that that's the beauty of technology. I am closer onto the Chandigarh side, and Sanjukta, you are in another part of the country. Megha is in Delhi. So we have Dibrugarh, Guwahati, Delhi, and Chandigarh coordinating and bringing this whole program together for everyone. So that's the beauty of technology. But then nothing like actually traveling and seeing places, I guess. And also eating the food real time and not virtually. So, so Chef Megha, when you talk about the use of bamboo, And we also get the bamboo in cans these days because it's not possible to get fresh bamboo everywhere.
Yes.
How close
Yes.
is it in terms of authenticity of the flavors using it from the can?
Well, the one that you get in can is obviously very, very diluted. And if you cook with it the way we cook fresh bamboo shoot, I think it'll disintegrate in the gravy. So I think it's a good way to start for somebody who's not familiar with flavors of bamboo. I think the canned one is much lighter. It'll get you accustomed to the flavors, and then maybe you can move on to the fresh one and then to the fermented one. Because also I feel it's a little bit of an acquired taste, especially for people not from the Northeast.
Yeah, that's
And
true. That's true. And
yes.
Sanjukta, if I were to ask you, how do we really build more, content? As one can see, there are workshops, there are places to go and learn a lot of these local skills. How do we really put this content together, and how do we reach out, particularly, I would say, to the domestic tourist also, because India is so diverse and so amazing in its diversity. How do we reach out is something that I would really want you to comment on.
Yes, ma'am, I have always mentioned, whenever I get a chance to interact with somebody who's not from the Northeast, particularly from Assam, information, the correct information, the first information that we feed to the person is what it's gonna go and, create ripples outside. So we always consider that for people that we are interacting with are our ambassadors who's going to go and carry these message that this is what our food is about, this is what our culture is about. Then just reading it what is there on popular news items and popular news websites. So I think a one-on-one conversation, a webinars like this, a platform like this definitely puts us on an edge where we can speak about our culture, showcase our culture, and talk about our food that again goes and carries forward. Now I speak to you, and it is you as a messenger, our ambassador, who's going to carry forward this message and spread it to your rest of this people in your spectrum. So I think that is very important, the first hand information, the correct information, and of course inquisitiveness to learn about a culture that has not been explored much. This is how we all connect. So it's a matter of time. It's not going to happen in a day's time. It's going to take so much of time. It's going to, it will happen, but yes, we're very positive that it will happen.
Sanjita, the other thing that we keep getting a lot of inputs and requests from people is that while I might be headed for a food trail, and that's where I must compliment the three of you for having put together the whole story of Assam together. Because while you might be heading for food trails and culinary tourism, but you do want to do other things, because imagine, how much can you eat also? And how much can you just do that while you love the food? So, and also when you go to a place, you want to learn about the dance forms, you want to see the history, the culture, the built and the natural heritage of a place, so to say, and also the softer skills part of it. You be putting all that together, particularly because you are also a blogger. I think there is so much that we need to do on that front. So I probably should we be creating small community networks that give this information out? Would that help?
Yes, of course, because again, if we see we lack in that, there are travelers who come in and has no clue where to get the correct information. There's no network, there's no organized network from where they can extract source information from. Definitely, that is a very, very wonderful idea. We really need to work on these aspects. No.
So Madhusmita, asking you also almost a similar question, that how do we create that kind of outreach? I do believe and understand that the northeast part of our country has so much to offer, and yet somewhere we are not able to bring the story together, I feel, because if we look at the kind of infrastructural improvement that the government has been working on, if we see the airports, the flight connectivity, and particularly after the Udan scheme came, and there are these short flights that connect so many places. So how would you take this forward, making sure that all of us in India come to know about the different offerings of not just Assam, but the Seven Sisters, and Assam, of course, being the gateway to those beautiful parts of our country?
Yes, ma'am. Actually, thanks to the government, now the connectivity has improved a lot in past few years. It's become really easy to travel. Earlier, even if you see in the map, what usually happened is like people, they see like places are so nearby. Why does it take so much time to go from one place to another? And then it becomes difficult to explain, like, you know, the connectivity, the roads are not good. So you cannot compare it with some other part of the country maybe, or anywhere else. But now slowly and slowly the roads are improving, connectivity is improving. The Guwahati airport is like one of the busiest airports in the country now. Even Dibrugarh, it is getting direct flights daily now. Recently there is a direct flight to Mumbai, to Chennai, and all that. So as the connectivity keeps improving, so definitely people will be encouraged to visit. We are getting a lot of domestic, we've started getting a lot of domestic queries now from places across the country, which usually we would not get a few years back. So definitely the scene is improving a lot, we can say, and we have a very, very bright future for tourism in Northeast in the future. But the only thing is that we have to look into the sustainability part of it. We don't want to make it a place of, you know, mass tourism. We want it to be quality rather than quantity. So it's every stakeholder of the tourism fraternity in Northeast, it is very important to look into the fact of look into it, that they are practicing responsible tourism. So it's very important that we take up these steps now, and I think the government can also help us a lot in this regard, so that, you know, we have a very very nice, very bright future ahead.
Yes, I think you raised a very important aspect, the aspect of sustainability and working and making sure that, you know, no place is ruined by the fact that the moment we start showcasing and start getting too many numbers, then the very reason for which you were visiting that place itself gets lost. And part
Yes.
of the, I think, responsibility for all of us, therefore, also lies, one, of course, is creating the whole narrative on being responsible, but also making sure that we are able to showcase more and more places, because if there are more options for people to travel to, then just that one place that sort of becomes the hub is a tendency that can be curbed. And there I want to ask you, Madhusmita, that in terms of the communities working together, whether it could be the textile, whether it could be the little arts and crafts of a village, could we look at working in smaller clusters so that each place becomes self-sufficient in terms of the offerings that it has? And the other question that I have of you is on the amazing part of Shiv Sagar, which was shown, and how to get there, and are there good places to stay at near Shiv Sagar?
Sibsagar has a few hotels, nice hotels, but it's just an hour drive from half an hour, like maybe 1 hour to 2 hours drive from Dibrugarh. So Dibrugarh has direct flights from Delhi, so one can easily come to Dibrugarh and go to Sibsagar. And also Jorhat has an airport. So this is another thing, like Northeast is it has the highest density of airports in the country. So there are a lot of connections now, and new flights, as I've already said, have coming up. So Sibsagar is easily accessible from Jorhat and from Dibrugarh, the two nearest airports. And the community part, as we have already talked about a few of the community initiatives, like the one near Kaziranga, the Karbi tribe. So similarly, we can see a lot of such community initiatives mushrooming across the entire Northeast. Even we can talk of other places also in the Northeast, in Nagaland, in Arunachal. There are also these kind of community initiatives are coming up, because Northeast India, as we see, it is a very community-based culture. In entire Northeast, it's a community-based culture. So that is why it is always better when a village takes up some kind of like initiative. Like we see the Maulinong in Meghalaya, which is now known as the cleanest village in Asia. It is also a community initiative. So all the people in the village, they are involved in it. So it makes the success rate very high. And we are trying to focus and taking people to such kind of places.
So I think there is, I'm going to show you how on the roadside you can actually have a fresh orange juice. We are talking of food and I could not resist. Therefore,
Oh,
we will
that
just
looks
stop.
very tempting.
Yes, and it's vitamin C, much required in these difficult times, right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think we are at 12 noon and it's almost time to get by. But I must congratulate you and also mention once again our solo 1,000 cyclist, and also in that process mention infrastructure. We've been getting a lot of feedback from the cyclist, and the roads are, of course, some of them still getting widened, but they are doing really well. And today he is doing the Bogibeel Bridge, because the 1,000 kilometer is essentially on the north bank and the south bank of the mighty Brahmaputra. And there is so much improvement in infrastructure on these parts. As you rightly said, the airports and short flights, there is so much option now. So I think it's
This
time for all
bridge
of us
has,
to
yeah,
work together.
this bridge has completely changed the entire thing. Like, the just in a few 1 or 2 years, we can see the improvement in, a trade. Like people from the other bank are coming to Dibrugarh to sell products, and from here they're going, and it's become so easy nowadays. The market is like filled with people from the other bank.
Right, right. Absolutely. It's a fantastic piece of infrastructure added on this, the northeast part of the world. So viewers, just keep enjoying and keep tasting the different flavors of India. Today we were tasting Bhut Jalakia. Be careful when you are offered one. Do not fall for the temptation of, biting into the whole chili in one go. And so thank you, Sanjukta. Thank you, Madhusmita. Thank you, Chef Megha, for bringing together this absolutely brilliant session. And we look forward to actually coming to Guwahati and to other parts of Assam, and not just tasting the wonderful food, but also seeing the amazing sights, and also looking at the mighty Brahmaputra, doing perhaps a cruise in the mighty Brahmaputra, because a few weeks back we had a session on that also. So next weekend, which is again going to be a Saturday, 11 a.m., we are going to bring you something from the Northeast. We are wanting to bring you the adventure part of Northeast, as we put together a whole story for Northeast. But do remain tuned in. You would be in for another lovely session. So 11 a.m. on next Saturday is when we see you again. For today, thank you so much for being with us, supporting us, and देखते रहिए और दिखाते रहिए अपना सुंदर अतुल्य भारत. Namaste.